The camera had been recording for 118 days. Senior Ranger Elias Thorne pulls the memory card from the reinforced steel trail camera housing at 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday in late November. The camera is mounted at chest height on a massive sweet gum tree at the western edge of Sector 4 in Blackwood Ridge National Forest, a location he selected 4 years ago as part of a state-funded wildlife monitoring program that tracks the territorial expansion of a recovering mountain lion population and the movement of black bear through the sector's steep ravine drainage. He visits this specific camera 3 times a year, once in March, once in July, and once in November. He inserts the card into his field laptop, opens the proprietary image management software, and begins reviewing. He is 54 years old and has worked as a senior park ranger at Blackwood Ridge for 2 decades. Before Blackwood, he spent 10 years as a state game warden at a high desert conservation area in a neighboring region. A different ecosystem, different topography, different fauna. The same fundamental work. Knowing a place well enough to notice when something has changed. He holds a forestry management degree from a state university and a federal land management law enforcement certification obtained in his 5th year at Blackwood. He patrols approximately 85 square miles of dense, mixed hardwood and conifer forest, handles public contact at the sector's 3 main trailheads, coordinates search and rescue operations for lost hikers, responds to wildlife incidents, manages the aggressive timber poaching countermeasures for his sector, and maintains the trail camera network. 22 cameras distributed across the forest's most heavily monitored zones. The cameras are his most consistent data source. They do not miss shifts. They do not suffer from fatigue. They do not have off days. They record what passes in front of them with complete indifference to whether it is scientifically interesting or not. He has reviewed trail camera footage thousands of times. He knows what it looks like when the camera has done its job. This time, the camera has done something more than its job. 1,244 images captured across 118 days. He begins scrolling. The first 40 images are entirely routine: white-tailed deer, a dominant buck in velvet, and a sounder of invasive feral hogs. On the morning of day 12, a juvenile mountain lion moving silently through the frame at night. Standard apex predator corridor activity consistent with prior years. He logs the metadata and continues scrolling. Day 24, a raccoon briefly moving east. Day 31, nothing. A continuous false trigger from wind-blown mountain laurel during a low-pressure storm system. Day 42, a stark monochrome screen. He stops scrolling. The camera's infrared flash array has illuminated a human figure. The figure is male, heavy build, wearing a dark knit beanie, a generic heavy winter coat, and dark cargo pants. On his head, a red lens tactical headlamp is active. The face is not clearly visible, obscured by a thick, unkempt gray beard and the sharp downward angle of the subject's head. He is not carrying a hiking pack. In his right hand, he grips a military-grade collapsible entrenching tool. In his left hand, he carries a heavy, reinforced, matte black Pelican case. He is positioned approximately 15 meters southwest of the camera, moving parallel to the sheer wall of the ravine. The location is not a designated hiking trail. It is not within any permitted camping zone. It is, according to the Federal Forest Use Map, a primitive conservation area with no authorized public access points within a 5-mile radius. He continues scrolling. Day 42, timestamp 3:40 a.m. Exactly 1 hour and 26 minutes later, the man walks back through the frame, heading in the opposite direction. He is no longer carrying the reinforced Pelican case. His left hand is empty. The entrenching tool in his right hand is visibly coated in fresh, dark soil. Day 56. Exactly 2 weeks later, 2:10 a.m., the man returns. Same clothing, same headlamp. He carries the shovel and a tightly rolled olive drab canvas duffel bag tucked under his arm. Day 56, 3:45 a.m. The man walks back out. The canvas duffel bag is unrolled and visibly full, straining heavily against its nylon shoulder straps. The shovel is dirty. Day 70. The man present. In, empty-handed. Out, with a heavy bag. Day 84. The man present. In, empty-handed. Out, with a heavy bag. Elias scrolls through all 1,244 images. The man appears in 16 of them, spread across the full 118-day window. It is always the same person, based on consistent clothing, physical build, and precise movement patterns. He makes 8 complete round trips. The visits occur exactly every 14 days, with a variance of no more than 12 minutes in his arrival and departure times. The behavior is calculable, disciplined, and profoundly suspicious. He is executing a cyclical retrieval operation. The face is not clearly captured in any image except one. Image 812, day 98, in which the individual pauses near a fallen oak, wipes his brow, and turns his head toward the camera's infrared sensor for a period of approximately 2 seconds. The image is bathed in harsh shadows, but the geometric detail of the subject's left ear and profile is sufficient. Elias calls his sector chief at 8:30 a.m. and describes the timeline he has found. His supervisor asks him to switch immediately to an encrypted terrestrial radio channel and to forward the raw image files to the regional command center. He sends the images. At 10:15 a.m., his supervisor calls back and tells him that image 812 has been forwarded directly to the State Bureau of Investigation. At 11 a.m., a senior SBI investigator calls him directly and tells him to locate and document the subject's destination area without disturbing the site, and to note any physical anomalies visible from the ravine floor. He walks into the conservation zone. It takes him 45 minutes of brutal bushwhacking at a cautious pace, approximately 400 meters from the camera location. He finds the site at the base of a towering limestone bluff. What remains? The camouflage. Tucked deep beneath the overhang of a massive fallen oak tree, the ground appears normal, but the leaf litter is too homogeneous, lacking the natural stratification of decaying organic matter. The water runoff patterns have been artificially redirected. He uses a telescoping inspection mirror from his pack to peer under the darkest part of the overhang. Sunk flush into the earth is a custom fabricated fiberglass lid, painted and textured with epoxy to perfectly mimic the surrounding dirt and dried roots. It is the top of a commercial-grade, waterproof polyethylene tank, the kind used for underground agricultural chemical storage, repurposed into a subterranean vault. Surrounding the lid are faint boot prints, meticulously brushed out with a pine bough. He photographs all of it, carefully steps backward into his own crushed footprints to leave no trace, and returns to the ranger station to wait. Special Agent David Corliss of the Federal Bureau of Investigation arrives at the Blackwood Ridge Command Post at 4:30 p.m. with a federal liaison officer from the United States Marshals Service. The involvement of the FBI is explained within the hour. Image 812, when run through the Next Generation Identification Federal Biometric Database, had returned a definitive match based on ear geometry and an automated gait analysis pulled from the sequence of frames. The individual in the image is Arthur Vance. He is 64 years old. He is a former shift captain and head of security for a major regional armored transit corporation that operated out of the Chicago metropolitan area. He had joined the Marine Corps at 18, entered the private security sector at 26, and had been considered by colleagues, by corporate clients, and by local law enforcement to be a highly disciplined, intensely organized, and technically precise practitioner. In November of 22 years prior, he had vanished during a holiday weekend shift, along with a heavily armored transport truck containing $7.4 million in unmarked, non-sequential bills destined for a Federal Reserve incinerator facility. The truck had been located 4 days later, idling under a concrete overpass in Indiana. The interior of the cargo bay and the cab had been meticulously wiped down from floor to ceiling with industrial bleach, destroying all trace evidence. The total financial loss was one of the largest in the region's history. Vance had been classified as a high-priority federal fugitive. Active warrants had been issued nationwide. His last confirmed sighting 22 years prior had been on a tollway camera outside Gary, Indiana. The assumption had been that he had purchased a new identity and left the country. He had not left the country. He had gone into the forest. The financial assessment conducted in the 48 hours following the biometric identification establishes several facts about the logistics of what Vance had been doing. A man matching Vance's current physical description, operating under the deeply layered alias of Thomas Weaver, owns a heavily off-grid cabin situated on a poorly maintained county dirt road. The distance from the cabin to the subterranean vault via the unmarked logging roads and the ravine is approximately 6.5 miles. Weaver has no digital footprint, no broadband connection, and no credit history. He pays his county property taxes biannually using structured postal money orders. He drives an old truck registered through a blind LLC based in Wyoming. He lives a quiet, frugal life. But even extreme frugality requires cash. Once every 2 weeks, Vance hikes into the pitch-black heart of Blackwood Ridge, opens his vault, and makes a calculated withdrawal of the stolen funds to sustain his invisible life. He had chosen his location carefully. He had simply not accounted for the camera. The operation to locate and detain him is coordinated between the FBI Hostage Rescue Team, the State Bureau of Investigation, and the Blackwood Ridge Sector Rangers, including Elias Thorne, who knows the sector terrain better than anyone on the federal task force. A dynamic raid on the cabin is ruled out. Vance's property is known to be heavily fortified with perimeter alarms, and a siege is deemed too volatile. The trail camera image archive establishes a rigid visit frequency of exactly 1 return to the vault every 14 days. The operational plan accounts for this mathematically precise pattern. Vance is due to return in 3 days. On the night of the scheduled withdrawal, a freezing rain falls over Sector 4. At 10 p.m., Elias Thorne guides the HRT operators through the dark ravine, navigating without white light. They establish a 360-degree tactical perimeter around the fallen oak tree and the buried vault. They wait in the freezing mud for 4 hours. At exactly 2:12 a.m., the faint red glow of a headlamp breaches the southern tree line. Arthur Vance walks his established path. He is carrying his collapsible shovel and his empty canvas bag. The camp clearing has been under observation since midnight. He reaches the fallen oak. He drops to his knees. He sets the bag aside and begins to sweep away the camouflaged leaf litter. He reaches for the heavy steel locking mechanism of the fiberglass lid. Dozens of weapon-mounted tactical flashlights ignite simultaneously, instantly flooding the narrow ravine in blinding, daylight-bright illumination. The command to surrender echoes violently off the limestone bluff. Vance freezes. He looks at the wall of lights waiting for him. He does not run. He slowly opens his hands and lets the shovel fall into the mud. He puts his hands behind his head where he is asked to put them. He does not reach for the loaded 9mm pistol holstered beneath his winter coat. He has been running for exactly 22 years. He does not say a word. The excavation of the vault takes forensics teams 2 full days. Inside the polytank, investigators find row upon row of military-grade Pelican cases. The cases contain heavy, vacuum-sealed bags packed with industrial desiccants to prevent moisture rot. They contain $6.1 million of the stolen cash. The missing $1.3 million had been slowly bled out over 2 decades to pay for groceries, truck parts, property taxes, and the silent maintenance of a stolen life. The original grand jury indictment for bank fraud and interstate theft stands. The flight from legal process adds federal charges. The false identification documents add additional charges. At sentencing, Vance's defense attorneys argue for leniency based on his age and his non-violent life in the woods. The federal judge explicitly rejects the notion. The judge notes that Vance had demonstrated not impulsive flight, but deliberate, sociopathic, and sustained evasion. 22 years of highly structured movement, followed by a calculated retreat to a subterranean bank he had engineered to evade the federal government. The sentence is 25 years in a maximum security penitentiary. The appeal is denied. The Armored Transit Company had written off the loss 2 decades prior. The $6.1 million recovered from the dirt of Blackwood Ridge is processed as evidence and formally returned to the Federal Reserve incinerator queues to complete the journey it began 22 years ago. The Bureau of Land Management and the National Park Service updated their trail camera review protocols in the months following the Vance case. Images are now mandated to be forwarded for secondary law enforcement review on a quarterly basis, in addition to the standard biological analysis. A change formalized in a joint agency directive submitted to the Department of the Interior. The directive noted that wildlife monitoring cameras by definition record what moves through their field of view. What moves through their field of view is not always wildlife. It noted that the Sect-4 camera had been in place for 4 years and had never previously captured human activity that required federal tactical intervention. It noted that this could mean human activity had never occurred within the camera's field of view, or it could mean that it had occurred and had not been properly analyzed. The directive recommended against assuming the former. The agencies adopted the protocol change without modification, officially classifying the cameras as passive sentinels of the wilderness. Elias Thorne still visits the Sector 4 camera 3 times a year, March, July, and November. He pulls the card, inserts it into his field laptop, opens the image management software, and begins scrolling. The walk to the camera takes the same amount of time it always has. The forest looks the same. The massive sweet gum tree the camera is mounted on has grown slightly thicker. The deep hole at the base of the limestone bluff has been filled in by federal engineering crews, the scar slowly reclaimed by wild ferns and thick moss. The ravine drainage sounds the same in the early morning. He looks for the mountain lion. He looks for the feral hogs. He looks for the movement patterns that tell him how the sector's ecosystem is functioning, what the migration corridors are producing, whether the root systems near the ravine are supporting the browse that the prey populations depends on. He looks for the things the camera was placed there to find, and he looks at everything else. He looks into the deep background. He looks at the shadows cast by the infrared flash. Every time the camera had been placed there to record what was moving through the forest, it had recorded exactly.